Good afternoon, friends and family. It's great to be with you once again on this rather chilly Wednesday afternoon.
That's right. Well, family, welcome back to Doing Life with Pastor Donovan and Pastor Chantel.
This weekend, we were ministered to by yourself, and it was an awesome message. And really, the message was all about God has renamed you, or God has given you a name, or as you put it, God has renamed you for your destiny. And I really like that, and the importance of the name that we carry. And it's not just a physical name, but it's also the spiritual name that God has given us will always line up with the plan and the destiny that God has for our lives.
That's right. And it's so important that we consider prayerfully when we name our kids, because the day we get born and we get a name, that name plays a big part in shaping our identity. And so people call us different names, the world call us names. But we need to just focus on what does God call you? Because the world will call you foolish, the world will call you no good, all those names the world will call you, but that doesn't line up with the word that God calls us.
And so the important thing is to allow God to name you.
Yeah.
And not be defined by people's opinions or how people see you, but allow God to name you.
Yeah.
You quoted a scripture in Isaiah that says God has given you a name. You has been called by the name that God had given you.
That's
And
right.
there are so many examples in the
Yes.
Bible where we see people's names that have changed. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Where people's names have been changed because it did not line up with God's plan and God's destiny for their life.
That's right.
I guess the most prominent example of that is Abram,
That's right.
where God has called him and changed his name to the father of many nations.
Because his faith didn't line up with what God called him.
Yeah.
And so God had to change his name so that he can line up. And we read in the Bible, when God changed his name, it took a year for that promise to be fulfilled. And I don't think that promise would have been fulfilled if God didn't change his name.
That's right. And so the promise that you were talking about is the fact that Isaac was born a year after Abram's name was changed to the father of many nations. And we see so many other examples.
That's right.
I know that I recall that Jacob, we just called, his name means deceiver. His name God changed to Israel. And God changed many people's names in the Bible to line up with the destiny that God had for them. And I love the quote that you made, and perhaps I'm not sure where you heard it, but I've heard it said before as well, that the devil calls you by your sin, and God calls you by your name. So again, don't let the devil define who you are. Don't let the devil place names on you and accept those names that he places on you, but you go by the name that God called you.
That's right. Because people look at our past and they call us according to that. But if people call you something and it doesn't line up with what the word tells of what God calls you, you don't need to respond to that name that the world call you. So don't let people define you. Don't let people name you, but let God name you. Because what God name you, like you said earlier, overrides what people call you.
Yeah. And this is not us saying go to Home Affairs, go change your name in your ID book. That is not what we're saying at all. We're not speaking about physical names. We're speaking about your spiritual name. Because at the end of the day, when God has called you for a plan and a purpose and a destiny, he matches it up with what it is that he calls you.
That's right.
And so it's very important that we do not be defined by different things in our lives, even our pain. Again, a statement that you made was that your pain is less than your purpose, or other way around. Your purpose is bigger than your pain. I love that saying. Your purpose is bigger than your pain. And often we look at the pain that we're going through and we allow that to define us.
That's right. And you know what? It's so amazing, because sometimes, like you said, we want to sit in that ashes. We want to sit there that when we don't want to let go of certain things, especially when we get hurt. But we need to know our purpose is bigger than our pain. We need to rise up from that ashes and step into our future, because God doesn't wait for us to prove ourselves. God doesn't wait for us to change ourselves. God name us because what He sees in us.
Absolutely. He sees the end result.
He sees the end result.
That's right.
And so don't allow pain and unforgiveness, don't allow that to place something on you that God don't see.
Absolutely. There was a lady in the Bible, I forget, it was Naomi, whose name was Naomi,
Yeah.
and that had a meaning. Can you recall what that name
Naomi
meant?
meant pleasant and beautiful. But when Naomi lost her husband and her 2 sons, she said to the people, don't call me Naomi anymore, because God dealt with me bitterly, but call me now Mara, which means bitter.
Yeah.
So we can see that our circumstances, that things that we go through, that can play a big part on us.
How we see ourselves.
How we see ourselves, and us want to rename ourselves.
And so when we look at Naomi and she allowed the pain that she was going through, the loss of her sons and her husband, to and she asked, call me Mara, which call me bitter, because this is what I feel. This is the pain that I've gone through. And so it's very important that you do not allow your pain to define you, your past to define you. And so again, allow God to rename you.
That's right, because God sees us redeemed.
Yeah.
He sees us worthy. And that is how God sees us, and those are the names that He placed on us.
Yeah.
So don't let things define you, but let God define you.
That's right. And so when we look at so many examples in the Bible, I look at Paul. His name was changed to Paul, and that was, Paul means humble or small. And when I look at Paul's Gospels, all the epistles, I think it's about 13 that he wrote in the New Testament. When I read about the 13 epistles, that he always speaks about how he is the least of the apostles, how he dies to self, and it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives through me. So really, for Paul's ministry to have been successful, Paul needed a name change.
That's right.
He needed to come out of a state where he was persecuting the church, where his name was Saul. He was known as Saul, and then people changed his name to Paul, which was much more in line with what he was going to be doing for the gospel, for Jesus.
That's right. Look at Peter. Even Peter, his name was changed from Simon to Peter. Peter means rock. And you know what? Even though God knew Peter is going to deny him, he still said, I pray that your faith not fail you. And he said, you strengthen your brothers. So God, even though we know what we're going to go through, He still prays for us. And that is so wow, that we know that He's up in heaven, sitting at the right hand of the Father, interceding for us. So don't let your faith fail you.
And so the principle of what you've just spoken about is that your failures too does not define you.
That's right.
Your failures, don't allow it to rename you.
That's right.
Because even though, like you said, Simon was going through a time where he was going to deny Jesus, and that is a moral failure on his part, that did not define it. That did not stop Jesus from changing his name to the rock, to Peter. And Jesus says this, on this rock I will build my church. On the revelation that I am the Christ, Peter, I will build my church. And Peter, we know, went on to do great things for the Lord, great things in his ministry.
That's right.
And again, it is all started with a name change.
That's right. You know what? If you go through something, or if you are going through something now, ask the Lord, Lord, what is my new name? Give a name, something that we can hold on. I remember when I was telling this testimony, years ago I went through something, and I had to forgive multiple times. And I couldn't answer. I questioned the Lord. I said, why must I just forgive? And the Lord said to me, like we said earlier, I have a purpose for you, but your purpose is bigger than your pain, And then when I asked the Lord now, while I was busy preparing my sermon, I asked the Lord, what is my new name? And grace dropped into my spirit.
Mm.
And then the Lord reminded me of what I've been through years ago. And then it became clear to me, God gave me the grace to walk in forgiveness. It didn't take me years to forgive. I forgave immediately because of the grace that God bestowed on me.
So family, you know, our message to you today is that God calls you the way He sees you. He sees the potential in you. He sees the gift upon you. He sees the faith that you have. And He calls you by a new name.
That's right.
And so today we want to encourage you to walk in your purpose, walk in your plan. And absolutely, you know, when God gives you a spiritual name, and perhaps go back and pray and ask the Lord, give me a name.
Yeah.
Give me a name that is personal to me.
That's right.
And you walk your destiny and you plan out according to what God gives you. So God defines you by a name. The devil defines you by your sin.
That's right. That's right. And don't allow the devil to define you, because you're a child of God. And so you can go to the Father with anything and say, Lord, you just, take me through and give me and rename me, so that name that God gives you, it will carry you. It will encourage you to walk out your journey, to walk out your purpose.
Absolutely. So we trust that you were encouraged. It was really, really an awesome message that we received this weekend past, and we just wanted to share some nuggets with you. We trust that it encouraged you. We trust that it strengthened you to continue to go on and just press forward in the things of the Lord. We trust, and I hope, as I say goodbye to you, that you're going to have an awesome, awesome Wednesday and the rest of the week, and that you walk in victory.
That's
and
right.
remember, God has given you a name. He sees you.
That's right. Well, family, from our home to your home, we love you and we continue praying for you.